just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 Oh, my soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. Yes, it is. My soul is welcome here. 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 My soul is welcome. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome.
Yes, my soul is welcome here. And your soul is welcome here. Hold on just a minute, please. Let's see here. Get my bearings straight. Welcome. Your soul is welcome here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here to join me in my backyard this July 5th. Happy July 4th, a day late. We're still celebrating, right? Of course we are. So, all you out there in Cyberland, just want to say namaste. And what does that mean? It means the divine in me sees the divine in you. Each and every one of us has the seeds of the divine as creations of our source, of our creator, of God. So the divine in me sees the divine in you. Welcome! Today, I wanted to remind you that after service today at 11:30, we have a spiritual cafe where we have a thought-provoking discussion about spirituality, mysticism, metaphysics, and with special emphasis on the talk of today, of whatever. Every Sunday we have this, and today's it's with special emphasis about dependence and independence and interdependence. So just a reminder for our Zoom cafe at 11:30. If you don't have the link, it's on Facebook and on our website. So www.unityofstockton.com. So today's message, being that it's July, I have something on my, oh, sorry. It's July 4th weekend. So the spiritual message is about independence. And more importantly, it's about interdependence. So in our lives, we go from being dependent when we're little, and then we become independent where other people depend on us. And then there's a time, hopefully, where we learn to become interdependent. And what does this have to do with your life, your human life on this earth? And what does it have to do with your spiritual life, that spiritual divine aspect to you? I want to cover both of those because our humanness is a microcosm of the greater divine. So, how we live it is an example, is a metaphor. So let's go back to the word dependent. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that one because my real message for today is interdependence. And I'll tell you what I've come up with, but dependent is more like God's will be done. You know, in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done. God does everything. And if you think of God as anthropomorphic, being in human form, a man out there in the sky with a long white beard on a throne, meting out rewards and punishment depending on how you behave, if you think that's your God, then if you're dependent, you think he does everything, intervenes in every moment of your life. And it's kind of like that's your security blanket. So when that gets threatened, you may feel a bit wobbly. So that's dependent. How about independent then? Independent is my will be done. My ego. Hey, I don't need God. I don't need any of you. I can do it all by myself. So all of these have pros and cons to them. There's a price to be paid for dependence. There's a price to be paid for independence. But there are pros to all of them as well. So interdependence, which is my main message today, is oneness. Interdependence means being one with that divine spirit, that divine presence, that divine energy, one with God. And since we are all creations of that one God, interdependence means oneness with each other. Interdependence means oneness, folks. It's a merging of our human with the divine aspects of our lives, of ourselves. It's an aligning, bringing the two into alignment. It's a coming together of the humanness and the divine aspects. It's a harmonizing, making them in harmony with each other. It's an intertwining. It's mutual reliance. Mutual reliance. Give and take. Give and receive. The flow. It's one. Not separate. Our country. When we became our own country, we wanted to be on our own, independent from Great Britain. And the King of Great Britain sang, as in the Hamlet play, was singing to us, hey, don't you know leading is not easy? You'll be back. You'll need to know how to do this. There are a lot of things to it that you don't understand. And there's probably some truth in that. But the king wasn't happy that we were wanting to be independent. So in our country and in us, there comes a time where we go, I want to be independent. We break away from our parents, and then we get out in the world and we have to depend on ourselves, and we go, oh, what was I thinking? There's a price to be paid for this. Hey, no, I want my mom back. And so there's this dance, and our lives, we've all experienced being dependent on someone or something else when we were little, or maybe people who are physically or mentally or emotionally handicapped, or times in our lives where we have to be dependent on someone else or something else. We've all experienced those times. We've all experienced times where we were independent, when others were depending on us, and where we were having to come up with the answers on our own, or we thought we did, And we tried. And then there are times where we learned that we can be interdependent. We can give and we can receive. We can give and receive. And that's a divine law, folks. Dependence, independence, interdependence, oneness. There's a Buddhist quote that says, each and all are unique and independent, and at the same time, all are interrelated and interdependent. We are all one. Find this in all areas, in all religions. Let me go deeper into that. So just a moment more on dependence. That's where, of course, we know we're influenced by another or determined by another. Our life is determined by another, or we're subject to another. And so I want to ask you, are you waiting for inspiration from someone else or something else out there in the world, the inspiration that you need to quit smoking, to lose weight, to get a better job, to whatever other goal? Are you waiting for inspiration from someone else or something else out there in the world? So waiting on another person or another situation to inspire us to make moves that we need to make in our lives leads to dependency on outside influences. And when we fail to turn inside for divine guidance, divine inspiration, we're liable to become enmeshed in a feeling of dependency on some person or something. All been there, haven't we? Looking for relief, looking for that something that's better, yearning for that something that's better. And it always falls short when we look out there. It always falls short. It never totally satisfies that yearning for something deeper. Because you know what, folks, that something deeper is? It's that divine inside you, everywhere present, always with you. And so when we look for it out there, it's insatiable. It's like, okay, I feel better for a while. This feels good. And then we go back to feeling empty again. And then we go, oh, I need more of that, whatever it was. And more. Always feeling unfulfilled. Dependency on it. Did you ever go into a relationship, a friendship, or a love relationship for the wrong reasons? How many of you can say yes to that? I would hope that every single one of you would say, yeah. I married the first time to get away from my controlling mother, and so I married a controlling man. Oh, I wasn't going to add that part anyway. There was a point, I've noticed that early in my life, I felt dependent on friends to fulfill me, to say what I needed to hear, to uplift me, to validate me, to validate my experience. And I noticed at some point I attracted friends who then depended on me for that validation, and it was not a healthy friendship. And I noticed in my romantic relationships, I was dependent for emotional fulfillment, sometimes financial. I didn't think I could do it on my own, for all these wrong reasons. And there was a point when I was 33, when I was in this relationship for all the wrong reasons. And I was unhappy, and there was a tugging at my heart. Do you like my sound effects? So I just suddenly realized, no, I have got to develop myself in such a way that when I am with a person, romantically or friendship-wise or whatever, but in this case it was romantic, When I'm with a man, it's because I want to be with him and for no other reason. Not for emotional dependence, not for financial dependence, not for any other reason. And that is when I decided to go back to college and develop myself in that way so that I could support myself. And somehow, I don't know how it happens, but you develop yourself more than intellectually, but you develop yourself in many, many ways, and it's just incredible. And that was the best decision I ever made for me and for my daughter and for my grandchildren and for my future offspring. I'm a kid from an uneducated, poor family, and I did that and developed myself and became independent. But as later in my story you'll see, I then became so independent that I thought I could do it all by myself. And I'm learning now to be interdependent in my relationships, in my friendships. Not where one's doing all the giving or one's doing all the receiving, either me or the other person. Where we meet each other halfway. I'm learning in my current romantic relationship, we're both learning that our needs are just as important as someone else's. And in the past, for me, I've often allowed my needs to not seem as important as other people's needs. I don't think I did that consciously. So now I'm realizing that my needs count too, and I'm learning in this relationship to give. Oh, you want to get me a cup of coffee? Thank you. That would be great. I would love that. Hey, can I do that for you? And we're learning. Instead of saying, oh, no. I'm independent. I can get that cup of coffee. Let me have this time to give. Let me have that. So we're learning. Interdependent. Healthy. So now let's look at independent one more time in a little more detail. Independent. Freedom from control or influence or support or aid or the like of others. So we move from outer dependency to interdependency when we rely on that Christ Spirit within for our inspiration, God's will, and we have the freedom of our own will too. So we merge those two together. Independent, our own will. And when we merge those two together, we become interdependent. Mutual reliance on each other, with each other. Mutual reliance, each other. Mutual reliance with God, or our higher self, or our divine source, that divine presence, that divine energy, however you define God. In relationships, we're privileged to help one another. And when we do that in such a way that we have the divine aspect in there, and it's a mutual reliance and not from a one-sided, lopsided, there's never a feeling of sacrifice or of being a martyr or of feeling overly dependent or even codependent on another. When we're independent, there's none of that. That's in a healthy way. So, dependence, independence, interdependence in our country, in our lives, in ourselves. Dependent, God's will be done. Thy will be done. He does everything. My security blanket. Independent. My will be done. My ego. I can do it all by myself. I don't need you. I don't need God. Interdependent. Aligning. Coming together. The human and the divine. The dependence and the independence to interdependence. Harmonizing. Intertwining. Mutual reliance. One. Not separate. Experience heaven on earth. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Experiencing heaven on earth. Okay, what does that mean? Let's explore. First, let's explore what heaven means. The metaphysical, deeper meaning of heaven is that Christ consciousness that's in you, but you're not always aware of it. You may be floundering around in this world, not being aware that there's a consciousness in us. There's a wisdom in us. There's a guidance in us. There's an intuition in us. If we stop and hear that voice, it's always there, that Christ consciousness. And when we stop and hear that, we experience heaven, which is a state of consciousness that happens right here, right now. And that state of consciousness that's heavenly like is when we are in harmony with God, when we are interdependent, when we are one, when we have that total realization and we experience it firsthand. That's when we experience heaven, a state of being in here, right now. So I'm going to add to that, interdependent means mutual reliance, one, not separate. And Jesus said about heaven, he called that, when we're in that heavenly experience, that state of being, it's the kingdom of God. They spoke of kingdom back in the day because they had kingdoms, but that heaven is the kingdom of God. That's what that is. And he says the kingdom of God is within you. I'll add, not separate from you. That's from Luke 17, chapter 21. Heaven is within every one of us when we stop to listen and experience it. But it's not material. It is spiritual. Let's look deeper into this notion of interdependence. Interdependence. Okay, I'm about to lay a big one on you, so just bear with me here. And I don't expect you to believe everything that I put out here. I'm just laying out ideas. But I do expect you to keep an open mind, to just take it in and contemplate it before you decide this is right for me, or I'm going to leave that, that's not right for me. Or at least it's not right for me at this time in my life. You may decide later down the road, oh, I see what she was meaning. Maybe this will be right for me. And maybe it never will. I don't care. I respect your right to believe whatever you believe. But I'm about to lay a whammy on you. So just get ready and stay with me, please. God uses us. And we use God. Mutual reliance. Is the ceiling going to come crashing down on me? No, wait a minute. We are one. We are not separate. Oneness. Okay, let's look into this a little further. Tell you what I'm meaning. God uses us to express the divine energy. We are the divine God energy made manifest in this earthly realm. We are the arms and the feet. And we're the eyes too. Have you ever heard that? There was a story about a statue of Jesus, and some punks had come along and hit it and crushed it, and it no longer had arms and legs, and people said, hey, we got to fix that. And then someone said, no, we are the arms and the feet. And we are the eyes too. So Alan Watts said, you are the aperture through which the universe is looking at itself and exploring itself. Some of you even say that the universe is God. However you're looking at the universe, it doesn't matter. Alan goes on to say, Alan Watts, through our eyes, the universe is perceiving itself. Through our ears, the universe is listening to its harmonies. We are the witnesses through which the universe becomes conscious of its glory, of its magnificence. If you ever think about the cosmos, you know the magnificence of it. Ah. Eckhart Tolle said, "You are the universe experiencing itself very briefly as human." Carl Sagan said, "We are made of star stuff. Everything is made of star stuff." But Carl Sagan said, "We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." It reminds me of Anne Murray's song, "You Needed Me." You ever heard that song? Remember that song? Anne Murray, "You Needed Me." Think about that. You ever think about that? We use God. God needs us. We use God. Do you ever think of that? That wonderful Spirit of God, out of which everything is made, here at all times, always present with us. And we are using that God. Let me say more about that. Charles Fillmore, one of our co-founders, said, "Divine presence only does what human beings ask it to do, serving our needs, giving us a spiritual food." Of course, it depends on how you define God. Some of you believe that God is not anthropological, not a man out there in the sky in a throne with a long white beard. Some of you believe that. Some of you, and I'm not here to tell you what's right to believe. Some believe that God is the one principle. A principle is a law, is something that's always true. Like, there's only one true north. North is always north, no matter where you are. Always true. So that's a principle, that's a law. And there are spiritual laws and spiritual principles that are always true. They are absolute. They're not relative like everything on this earthly realm, but they're absolute. They never change. A stable force in our lives, a spiritual law. Some of you believe that God is the one presence. Some of you believe God is the divine energy. Some of you believe God is the source of all life, of all creations. Some of you believe that God is your higher self. Some of you believe that God is neutral. No male, female, no skin color, no any of that human stuff, attributes. Neutral, like electricity. Electricity is neutral, and we can use it for good or for bad. We can use it for nuclear weapons, or we can use it to provide heat and light. We are all as free to use God as we are to use the principles of math, the principles of music, which is numbers, or the principles of electricity. Try that on for size. You know, if you were a pianist and your ability to play a piece of music beautifully would come with practice, lots and lots of practice, repetition, development of technique, and how that piece of music comes out, the quality of that piece of music depends on your level of skill, the quality of your skill, your expertise, the development of your skill. So if I went to pound on piano keys, what would come out would be chaotic and not pretty at all. But for some people, what comes out is just dependent on their level. So that applies also to the ability to use the principles of the divine. It comes with practice. It comes with repetition. It comes with development. It comes with spiritual work and prayer and meditation and reading spiritual stuff. It comes with the desire for that. It starts with the desire for that. And we practice on humans loving, being kind, being polite, that quality, that skill, so that what comes out, like the piece of music, is beautiful and loving and kind and polite. Even, we really get a chance to practice, even in the face of, I'm going to say this, those idiots who are driving, cutting in front of you, blowing their horns at people who are in their way, those idiots in the supermarket, whatever. We get a chance to practice so that our consciousness, the way we use that divine energy, is beautiful. The allegory about Adam and Eve. You all know that story. God said, don't you eat of the forbidden fruit. God's will. That's my will. And Adam and Eve said, no, we want to do this. We want to eat that forbidden fruit. Our will. The forbidden fruit, of course, is the seeking our answers in the world of appearances, in the outer material world. That's the forbidden fruit. When we try to seek our answers from the outside world, drugs, people, dependency, it always falls short. Some even try to live independently from God. Instead of listening to the voice, the wisdom of divine presence, and following its guidance, they follow their own personal inclinations based on outer world experiences. But since we're created in God's image and likeness, we have unlimited freedom, a will of our own, to do as we please, our will. And there are consequences, as in Hamilton. As a result of not listening to the inner voice, we feel separated from God. Even though we don't actually ever become separated, it's not possible. And when we feel separated from God, it leads to guilt feelings, for we know we've not done something that's in our best interest, that's for our highest and best good. And then we experience fear, for we know we alone are inadequate to meet the challenges of life on our own. We don't need to be totally dependent. We have things we need to do too. We don't just sit back. So, if we're to rise out of this false state of consciousness, of believing that we're separate, of duality, which is what we experience, that and this, you and me, if we fall into that, and if we're to rise out of that, out of independence, out of separation, out of lack, out of limitation, we must not blame someone else. We don't even blame ourselves. We cannot live happy, successful lives independently of God. Jesus said, of mine own self I can do nothing. The following of our intuitive divine guidance leads to our freedom. July 4th, freedom. Freedom all the time in our lives. Interdependence. As we merge our humanness with the divine, we improve the quality of our consciousness. And then God works through us to do greater and better things, beautiful things. We transform our consciousness through daily study, prayer, and the effort to apply the truth we learn in our lives. The more we listen for the still, small voice within us and follow its leading, the more we will stay on the path, and we will be guided in ways of peace and health and plenty. God is constantly waiting on you, waiting upon you. If you are in doubt about anything, have you ever been in doubt about anything? Of course. If you're ever in doubt about anything, no matter how trivial, Just close your eyes for an instant and ask the silent one within yourself what to do. Ask your heart, not your head. The answer may not come instantly. It may come when you least think of it, and you'll find yourself moved to do just the right thing. It'll be simple, quick, and positive. And remember, there is always an answer. Dependent, God's will be done. Independent, my will be done. Interdependent, oneness with spirit, with each other, merging one, not separate. Experience heaven on earth. Thy will be done in earth as in heaven. I have a song for you here. By Daniel Nahmad, Raising the Veil, No Separation.
I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. I want to know you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to see you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to hear you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to feel you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to praise you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil. I want to love you. Oh God, I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil.
divine blessings to you.